My wife demanded a divorce and the house. She said I couldn't afford a lawyer to fight her. I replied, "You're right." She served me papers in court, only to see the region's most renowned and expensive divorce attorney sit down next to me. He looked at her and said he doesn't have to afford me. I'm his older brother. My wife, Sarah, informed me last week that she wanted a divorce. There was no sadness in her eyes, no regret in her voice. It was a declaration of victory. We were sitting in the living room of the house we had spent 8 years turning into a home, in a quiet suburban neighborhood. She spoke to me with the detached finality of a corporate executive. "It's over, James," she said, placing a file folder on the coffee table. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. These are my terms. I didn't open the folder. I didn't need to." She was more than happy to list her demands. She wanted the house, the one my grandfather had helped me put a down payment on. She wanted 70% of our shared savings. She wanted spousal support for at least 5 years. It wasn't a negotiation. It was an ultimatum. When she finished, she leaned back, a smug, confident smirk on her face. "I don't want to fight on this, James," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Let's be realistic. You're a high school art teacher. You make a decent living, but you can't afford a top-tier lawyer. My attorney will drown you in legal fees before you even see a courtroom. It's better for you to just agree to the terms and move on." I sat there looking at this woman I had loved, this woman I had built a life with, and felt a profound coldness settle over me. She didn't just want to leave me, she wanted to destroy me. She saw me as weak, an obstacle to be crushed and discarded. Her biggest weapon, she thought, was my inability to fight back. I let the silence hang for a long moment. Then I looked at her, my face a mask of resignation, and said the 2 words she expected to hear. You're right, the relief on her face was immediate. She thought she had won. The humble, simple teacher wasn't going to fight. She stood up, smoothed her skirt, and said, "Good, I'm glad you're being sensible about this. You'll be served with the official papers soon." Then she walked out of the room. Here's what Sarah knew. She knew I was a man of modest means. She knew I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars to throw at a legal battle. She also knew I had a brother, an older brother named Daniel. What she was banking on was that Daniel and I hadn't spoken in 5 years. Daniel isn't a teacher. Daniel is a legal titan. He is, without exaggeration, the most formidable and expensive divorce attorney in the region. He's a force whose name makes other lawyers uneasy. And he was, for all intents and purposes, no longer part of my life. We had a falling out after our parents passed away. It was over the family home, the house we grew up in a small coastal town. I wanted to keep it, to preserve it as a memory, a place for our families to gather. I'm sentimental like that. Daniel, ever the pragmatist, saw it as an impractical asset. He wanted to sell it, split the money, and move on. We had a bitter argument that left us estranged, divided by stubborn pride. We hadn't spoken since. Sarah had witnessed the tail end of that fallout. She saw me as completely isolated from the only powerful person in my family. In her calculations, my greatest potential ally was out of reach. She was wrong. For 3 days after her announcement, I was in a dark place. She was right about one thing. I couldn't afford to fight her on her terms. The thought of losing my home, my savings, everything I had worked for was crushing. On the 4th day, I hit rock bottom, and from there I could only go up. I swallowed my pride, the pride that had cost me my brother for 5 years, and found his private cell phone number. My hand shook as I dialed. I expected voicemail or a curt assistant. But after 2 rings, a familiar, deep voice answered. "Hello, Daniel," I said, my voice sounding weak and unfamiliar. "It's James." There was a long pause. I thought he might hang up. "Jamie." He finally said, the old nickname strange after so many years. "What's wrong?" And it all poured out. I told him about Sarah's demands, her lawyer, her coldness. I told him her final, arrogant taunt. "You can't afford a lawyer to fight me." Another long silence stretched between us. When he spoke, his voice was different. The surprise was gone, replaced by something I hadn't heard in years, the sound of a protective older brother. It was the sound of resolve. "She said what?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I repeated her words. "Okay," he said. "When and where is the first court appearance?" "Next week at the regional courthouse," I told him. "I'll clear my schedule," he said. "Don't talk to her. Don't talk to her lawyer. Don't sign anything. Just show up. I'll meet you there." We hung up. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and fragile hope. Sarah thought she had disarmed me. She had no idea she had just handed me a powerful ally. She was about to learn a hard lesson about what family means. Update 1. The morning of the preliminary hearing was a dreary, overcast day. It felt fitting. I walked into the courthouse alone, feeling like the defeated man Sarah expected me to be. I wore my best and only suit, usually reserved for special occasions. It felt like a mix of both. I entered the courtroom, a cold, impersonal space that smelled of old paper and tension. Sarah was already there at the plaintiff's table. She looked impeccable in a sharp, dark green power suit, her hair perfectly styled. She looked confident, smug, ready for a takeover. Next to her sat her lawyer, a man in his 50s with a self-satisfied grin. They were chuckling quietly as I walked in. Sarah saw me, and her smile faltered briefly, replaced by pity. She probably expected me to look more broken. I met her gaze, expression blank, and walked to the defendant's table. I sat down, placed my worn briefcase on the table, and waited. Her lawyer approached. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'm glad you're here. I trust you've reviewed my client's generous proposal. If you're ready to sign today, we can make this quick and painless." "I'm waiting for my counsel," I said quietly. He chuckled. "Your counsel? Good luck with that. Let's not drag this out." He returned to his table. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge, a stern-looking woman, entered and took her seat. She looked at the docket. "Carter versus Carter," she announced. "Are both parties present and represented?" Sarah's lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Richard Evans representing the plaintiff, Mrs. Sarah Carter." The judge looked at me, and the defendant. Before I could speak, the heavy courtroom doors swung open with a thud. Every head turned. Walking down the aisle was my brother, Daniel Sterling. He wasn't just wearing a suit. He was clad in tailored authority, dark and commanding. He moved with the confidence of a predator, his sleek leather briefcase at his side. Whispers rippled through the courtroom as others recognized him. His reputation preceded him. He didn't look at anyone else. His eyes were on me. He walked to my table, placed a hand on my shoulder, and squeezed gently. Then he sat, placing his briefcase on the table with a solid click. The sound echoed. I glanced at Sarah. Her smug expression was gone, replaced by horrified disbelief. Her jaw was slack, her eyes wide. She looked like she'd seen a ghost take a seat at the opposing table. Her lawyer looked worse, his face pale, his smirk erased by dread. He knew exactly who Daniel was. Daniel leaned over, ignoring the room. "Sorry I'm late, little brother," he whispered, a faint smile on his lips. "Traffic was a nightmare." Then he straightened all business. He looked at the judge. "Daniel Sterling, Your Honor," he said, his voice a commanding baritone. "Representing the defendant, Mr. James Carter." The judge's eyebrows rose. She knew the name. Everyone did. Then Daniel turned his gaze to Sarah and her lawyer, offering a cold, predatory smile. "My apologies for the delay," he said, his voice laced with mock politeness. Then he looked at Sarah again and delivered the line that shattered her world. "He doesn't have to afford me. I'm his older brother." The game had changed. Sarah thought she was coming to a surrender. She had walked into an ambush. Daniel opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick stack of files, and the demolition began. He rejected all of Sarah's demands, declared them predatory and filed in bad faith, and announced our intent to file a counterpetition. He said we'd seek a full forensic audit of all marital assets and expenditures for the past 3 years and demand Sarah pay my legal fees. Sarah's lawyer stood, stammering. He was a small fish cornered by a shark. The battle was over before it began. Update 2. The 2 months following that first appearance were a legal onslaught. My brother Daniel doesn't do things halfway. He doesn't just practice law, he wages war. Sarah and her lawyer thought they'd roll over me. Instead, they faced a relentless assault. Daniel's first move was a motion for discovery, a masterpiece of precision. It demanded every financial document Sarah had touched in 5 years. Bank statements, credit card bills, work expense reports, digital transactions, everything. Her lawyer tried to have it dismissed as overly broad and harassing. The judge, clearly wary of Daniel's reputation, approved our motion in full. Sarah was obligated to turn over everything. She thought she'd hidden her tracks. She didn't know Daniel employed forensic accountants for sport. While Sarah drowned in paperwork, Daniel went after her personally. He scheduled depositions with her friends, family, and colleagues. His strategy was to apply pressure until the truth emerged. The breakthrough came during the deposition of Sarah's best friend, Emily. Emily was loyal to Sarah, but no match for Daniel. He was polite, charming, and ruthless. For 3 hours, he questioned her about Sarah's spending her trips, her happiness in our marriage. Then he asked the question that broke the case. "Miss Harper," he said, "can you tell me about Mr. Michael Reynolds?" Emily flinched. The name was unfamiliar to me. Daniel waited. Emily tried to play dumb, but Daniel produced credit card statements from a card I didn't know Sarah had. A card linked to our joint savings, which she'd been draining for over a year. He pointed to charges. A hotel in the mountains, jewelry from a luxury boutique, expensive dinners for two. Miss Carter was on a work conference on these dates, Daniel said, but her employer confirmed no such conference existed. You weren't with her. So who is Michael Reynolds? Emily broke. Under penalty of perjury, she admitted it. Michael Reynolds was the man Sarah had been having an affair with for 18 months. He was a wealthy investor she'd met through her old job. It all made sense. The secrecy, the financial demands, the confidence. She wasn't just leaving me, she was leaving for someone else. She was trying to strip our marriage for assets to fund her new life. Her lover's deposition was even more revealing. Michael was smug but crumbled under Daniel's questioning. He admitted to the affair. He admitted they'd planned the divorce together. He even admitted it was his idea for Sarah to demand the house and spousal support, believing I'd be too weak to fight back. They had underestimated me. They had underestimated my family. With these depositions, Sarah's case was destroyed. She'd committed perjury in her filings by claiming fidelity. She'd hidden assets and marital funds. She was a liar and a fraud. Her lawyer called Daniel, begging to settle. He said Sarah would drop her demands and walk away. Daniel's reply was icy. No, he said. Walking away is a privilege she hasn't earned. We're going to court and we're going to dismantle her. She wanted a fight. Now she has won. Final update. 6 months have passed since I walked into that courtroom, a man who thought he'd lost everything. Today, I know I was wrong. I didn't lose what truly mattered. I gained it back. The final court date was a formality. Faced with overwhelming evidence, depositions, forensic accounting, proof of her affair and fraud, Sarah had no choice but to surrender. Her lawyer, exhausted and defeated, advised her to accept our terms, and Daniel's terms were merciless. Sarah didn't just walk away with nothing. She walked away with less than nothing. She relinquished any claim to the house. Her demand for spousal support was dismissed with prejudice. Because Daniel proved she'd spent over $60,000 of marital assets on her affair. Hotels, gifts, vacations with her lover. The judge ordered that amount deducted from her share of our savings and returned to me. She left with a fraction of her original demands, a mountain of legal bills, and the public humiliation of her scheme exposed in court. The fallout in her personal life was just as severe. Her lover, Michael Reynolds, dumped her almost immediately, uninterested in a woman who'd suffered such a public defeat. Her friends, many forced to testify about her lies, distanced themselves. She lost her fiancé, her house, her savings, her boyfriend, and her reputation, all because she underestimated the quiet man she was married to. But the real story, the heart of this chapter, is what happened with my brother. Weeks after the divorce was finalized, Daniel called me. "Meet me at the old house," he said. I drove to our parents' home, the house that had caused our 5-year feud in that small coastal town. I found him on the porch, sitting on the steps. We didn't talk about the case or Sarah. We talked about our dad's terrible fishing trips, our mom's incredible apple pie. We talked about being kids. After a long silence, he looked at me. "I was wrong, Jamie," he said. "I was so focused on the money, the asset, that I forgot what this place was. It's our home." I was wrong, too, I admitted. I was so stuck in the past, I couldn't see a different future for this place. We didn't sell the house. We decided to keep it together. We've spent recent weekends fixing it up, repairing the porch, painting the rooms, bringing it back to life. It's no longer a memorial to the past. It's a project for our future, a place for our family, the real one, to gather. Working side by side with my brother, tools in hand, has healed a wound I thought would last forever. Sarah's parting shot was that I couldn't afford a lawyer. Her greed, her arrogance, her belief that I was weak and alone, that forced me to make the call that brought my brother back into my life. She thought she was isolating me. Instead, she reunited me with the most important family I have. She tried to leave me with nothing. But today, with my home secure and my